So I did two different videos on this same topic. The first one comparing 4 differences between the G85 and the G95. And then the last video I did was basically saying 3 reasons why the Panasonic G95 might not be the best option for you. And as a preface to this video, I am not going to be purchasing the Panasonic G95 because of what I'm shooting. But I'll be linking those videos in the description so you can understand my reasoning. I really do believe in certain situations that the Panasonic G95 might be a really great option for you. And I really place this new camera at the prosumer level. So I don't think it's going to be something that you use for crazy professional jobs, but I also don't think it's going to be something for a complete entry-level beginner either. So I believe there are 3 reasons why it could be a really good option for you. First reason to buy it would probably be the 4K 24p. Now with the upgraded sensor and image processor, I imagine the 4K 24p is going to look really, really nice. And when it comes to the G85, that's probably the strongest selling point for me, is that 4K 24p image quality. When it comes to the G85, I place it right between the GH4 and the GH5 when it comes to the 4K 24p if you're shooting at the same bit rates between both cameras. And both of them are going to be using the same codec at 100 megabits per second, so that's going to give you a decent amount of information to work with, though it's still going to be 8-bit. And I really don't know enough about that topic to really delve deeply into it when it comes to these cameras, so I'm just going to stick to specs and go from there. Now, along with the upgraded sensor design, the G95 also has in-body image stabilization, just like its predecessor, the G85. Now, the reason this is going to be relevant for 4K 24p is because since you're not going to be shooting slow-mo and slowing things down, your 24p is going to actually be very, very stable. So I imagine if a majority of the time you're going to be shooting 4K 24p, just regular time video, that in-body image stabilization is going to come in really handy when you're doing some things like handheld interview shots, or if you're maybe doing run and gun documentary work, or anything handheld basically. That IBIS really does give you a ton of margin for error. But there's also another way to get some smooth video on the G95, and that's going to be the 120p. Now, I know in my previous videos I've shared that the 120p probably isn't going to be very good based on the bit rates. But like I said, if you're just a regular consumer purchasing this camera to get some really nice high quality video, that 120p really could come in handy in certain situations. The 120p has been really popularized by people like Peter McKinnon because it really just gives you that super smooth, buttery look that you can get even if your camera doesn't have in-body image stabilization. Essentially what this means is that you can slow this down to 20% of what you're shooting at to get just super, super smooth video. And I know this upgrade probably could push some people over the edge, but I really, really want to see some of this sample footage of the 120p because really 20 megabits per second, like I said, really translates to 4 megabits per second once it's slowed down to 24p. So I have yet to see whether or not it's going to look any good. My reasoning is if you're not doing that much color grading, if at all, if you're getting it to look good straight out of camera, I think it really could be a great option if you're someone like just a regular consumer and doesn't do a lot of color grading. And also coupled with the in-body image stabilization, it's just going to be ridiculously smooth. So the last reason the Panasonic G95 could be a really great option for some people is because of its ability to be a really decent hybrid shooting camera. Now the 20 megapixel sensor and the upgraded image processor on this camera is going to actually give you the ability to shoot some really nice high-ish resolution photos. If you do a lot of landscapes or you do a lot of cropping in and framing in post, the G95's upgraded sensor could really be a great option if you shoot a lot of photo. Now the drawback to Micro Four Thirds photography is that it's really not going to be great in low light situations. And you have that next to like a Canon 60 Mark II in the same kind of low light situation in the same exact settings. The G95 is going to perform significantly worse because the sensor size, I think it's around half the size of a full frame sensor. So you're just not going to be able to collect as much light as a full frame sensor, and your image is going to end up being a little noisier. Now what the in-body image stabilization helps with is it actually will compensate for your hand motion while you're taking a photo. So I've actually taken photos on the Panasonic G85 at right around 1/50th of a second handheld, and it still be pretty sharp as long as my subject isn't moving all over the place. And I've even seen shots on Reddit where people have shot longer-ish exposure, like 1 second. Not exactly sure if it's true, but that would be pretty cool if it was. But the in-body image stabilization really does help with keeping your photos super, super steady and sharp. So those are just a few reasons why the G95 could be a really great option for you. And as I've mentioned before, I'm not going to be buying one because it really just doesn't make sense because of where I am in the filmmaking business building process. But maybe some of these specs have pushed you over the edge to want to purchase the G95. If so, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments about that, and we'll see you all next week.